The Audible is back in action. I'm with my guys, Donnie Rightside and the Whale Capper, and we are breaking down each and every division far before kickoff of Week 1 starts, getting our study in. And today we talk about the AFC West, and I feel like I'm just reading the same literature as everybody else. I see the Chiefs at minus 160 to win the division. I think that's ludicrous. I see the Chargers with a 9.5 win total and plus 190 to win the division. I think that's a very nice spot to be in. I think the Chargers could be playing for the Super Bowl. Then the Broncos with Flacco and Fangio. The Raiders with Gruden. I mean, both these teams could win 5 games, could win 7 games. But that's 2 teams fighting for first and 2 teams fighting for third in this division. Donnie Rightside, how do you see the AFC West?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the way you're looking at it, Jimmy. I mean, this is a 2-horse race right here. We got the made-for-TV Oakland Raiders. We got the team that, sort of, I don't even want to say a wild card with the Denver Broncos because they have a lot moving forward. Are they going to start their young quarterback? Because their future's not going to be Joe Flacco in this type of environment. But I think this is going to come down to a pretty close race as it was last year. I mean, look, Andy Reid's going to have this team primed and ready to go with the great offense. They changed defensive coordinators this year. We'll see if that makes a difference. But to be honest with you, the Chargers all season, could it have gone any better than it possibly could have? I mean, this team's getting guys back healthy, had a really good draft, good pass rush, good offense. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch those 2 teams go head-to-head all season long, Jimmy.
Yeah, Whale Capper, the Chiefs look way overvalued.
They certainly do, and I mean, you look at you look at Mahomes' stats from last year, and you can kind of get a sense as to why people, the offensive numbers would just pop off the page at you. But I'm kind of agreeing with you guys. I think the value is definitely on the Chargers, and a lot of it comes down to the availability of Tyreek Hill. He kind of makes that offense tick, and if he misses a substantial part of time, that puts them into a very tight spot as far as I handicap the AFC West.
Well, let's get into it, AFC West, and let's start with the favorites. The Kansas City Chiefs wins 10.5 over plus 105, under juice to minus 135. Division minus 160, conference plus 375, Super Bowl plus 800, Patrick Mahomes MVP plus 400, finished with the best regular season record plus 800. Last year's MVP, Patrick Mahomes. We have the Tyreek Hill suspension hanging over the team. Will it be 4 games? Will it be more? Will it be less? Is Sammy Watkins capable of being a number 1 receiver? Can he stay healthy? Travis Kelce is a monster. Damian Williams, is he capable of being a number 1 running back? The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, helps this very bad defense. But Donnie Rightside, I want nothing to do with these Chiefs.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of funny we talk about not wanting anything to do with a really good football team. But again, we're gamblers, we're bettors, and you want to see an added value in order to take this team. Now, we're looking from the past couple years. They're used to double-digit wins. Is there a better regular season football coach week to week when you know Andy Reid's going to have that football team ready to go? There's no surprises on Kansas City from what we look at. The number 1 offense in the league, the surprise is on defense. You're going to have to stop somebody in order to continue to move forward here. I like the move from Spagnuolo, used to it being back in those Andy Reid days, way back from Philadelphia. The one interesting thing, again, with this division, Jimmy, is Tyreek Hill is a big ingredient here. If he does not get suspended, let's just say only misses maybe 1 game, you draft a rookie wide receiver that was supposed to fill into his role. If he doesn't, now you have a bonus surplus at wide receiver. You should get the running game going. Andy Reid, one of the best screen passing offenses in NFL history, that's going to be able to get this offense moving. Mahomes, very talented, but you're right. It comes down to the defense and also comes down to value. If you're going to pay like a minus, 150, 160, or 170 to win the division, when you have a team that's really 1A and 1B, when we're going to talk about the Chargers in just a few moments here, there's a lot to like about Kansas City. I think they can hit their win total, but I'm looking at 2 teams that are going to be both challenging for 11, possibly 12 wins in this division. I like the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they make the playoffs, Jimmy. But the problem's going to be here is those expectations are so high. And what happens if something just isn't right with Kansas City at quarterback? What happens if it's just not right with the defense? Again, this year, a lot of moving parts. The one thing they do have is a great home field advantage and a very good regular season coach. It'll be fun to watch moving forward. I still think they can at least get to that 10-win plateau, though.
Get to 10 wins. You're right. Great home field. Great coach. Last year's MVP at quarterback. But I am not high on these Chiefs. Whale Capper, are you?
No, we're in agreement here. The offense is due for a regression, even if Tyreek Hill plays 16 games. You're not going to see those same kind of numbers from Pat Mahomes. He largely caught the league by storm in terms of the way that they implemented him in the passing game and some of the wrinkles that they had that were kind of specific to his skill set that people just didn't really know he was capable of doing that. Everyone knows now he's the reigning MVP. The expectations are higher. The defenses in your division especially have spent amount of time preparing for you coming into this season. Like all of these things are red flags for a Chiefs offense underperforming compared to expectations heading into this season. Talking a little bit more in detail about Tyreek Hill and why he's so valuable and why he's so special for this offense. He gains more separation from defensive backs than any other player in the league, and it's not close. Okay, you look at Pat Mahomes' completion numbers and things like that. Like they're impossibly high, but he wasn't throwing into tight windows. He wasn't making especially difficult passes. Even he was throwing the ball a mile down the field. He's got an incredibly powerful arm. But a lot of the success they had in the passing game was born out of the fact that their receivers can get separation. A ton of that was Tyreek Hill. You have to completely reshape your defense when Tyreek Hill is on the field to make sure that you're not allowing the home run, so to speak. And without him, it would be an even more significant step back for this offense. You look at the Chiefs' schedule last year; it was pretty easy, really. They didn't have to go on any back-to-back road games. They didn't have any real, especially long stretches of travel. They had a real nice bye week, that afforded them the opportunity to kind of regroup and reshape for the home stretch. That's not the case this year. They have a much more difficult schedule in terms of when they're playing which teams. The idea, that everything's going to be off the ground and smooth running, smooth sailing, and they're going to get out to a great start is not a guarantee this year. I think all this kind of mixes together for a step back in terms of total wins. And then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, they didn't address their biggest problem. They don't have coverage players. They brought in a honey badger, I guess, but that's not a difference maker in the coverage standpoint as far as I grade him. They focused on, they gave away a lot to get Frank Clark. They lost Dee Ford in the process. So, there's a lot on the defensive side of the ball where I don't think that they really address their biggest problems. So I think they're going to give up points. They're going to give up passing yards, and they're going to make it especially tough for this offense. Granted, the offense is capable. Pat Mahomes is amazing, but I think they're going to be in a lot of close games this year. And if you're going to say more of these games are coin flips than you would like if you're holding an over and you're counting on double-digit wins.
I agree. We are all on the same page on these Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk about a team I may be too high on. The San Diego, Jesus. The Los Angeles Chargers. Jesus, come on. Get your shit together. Los Angeles Chargers, if they just had a home field. Wins at 9.5, juiced heavy to the over. Division plus 190, conference plus 700, Super Bowl plus 1,400, Phillip Rivers MVP plus 2,200. Finished with the best regular season record plus 900. Melvin Gordon, most rushing yards plus 2,000. Joey Bosa, defensive player of the year plus 1,200. I think this team can represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Thomas Davis is a big addition at linebacker, a veteran presence combined with Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram up front, Derwin James at the back is a nasty, nasty defense. You have a very good offense. Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Mike Watt. And this year, you had Hunter Henry, who was out last year with the ACL. I mean, this is a special Chargers team that I'm very high on. Donnie, are you as high?
I really am. I mean, look, I know it's easy to say in the offseason, and we saw how well of a good season they had last year and then moving forward. But, again, the offseason couldn't have gone any better. You're getting players back. You're making shrewd decisions. You have a really good defensive coordinator already. You have a quarterback that's used to running a complicated offense. You have all the weapons you need at wide receiver. You have a possible Pro Bowl tight end coming back. You have a great run, even though he's coming back off injury, both the running back and the tight end, still comparable. And a guy who I call the offense death by 1,000 cuts because Phillip Rivers, he will throw that slant all game long if you don't defend it. And then when we look at the Kansas City Chiefs and try to equate it to this ball club, what does Kansas City not have that this team does? They're great at every level, Jimmy. You can rush the passer, fast athletic linebackers. You have a good secondary. And again, they top it off. You have a really good defensive coordinator calling it all. And I can't say enough about the way they operated last year going into Baltimore and completely shutting that team down based on just a week and a half of preparation time for that wild card round. It was amazing. Now you're taking the next level this year. The one issue, if there's any issue with the Chargers, and we're always going to bring this up, is home field advantage that they do have. We can't take back time, Jimmy. We can't make schedule changes as it is. But what would have happened in the AFC West if it was the Kansas City Chiefs lost their home game versus the Chargers to go to Mexico as opposed to the Chargers here? That is a massive game. That might be the balance between both of these teams sitting at 10 wins, one getting 11 and one getting 10 wins and moving on, and then going to the playoffs with home field advantage. It's that big of an agreement. Just if they would have stayed in San Diego, they'd have that home field. They never would have went to Mexico in that game, and things could have been a lot different. But beggars can't be choosers in this type of environment. Look, Phillip Rivers is no stranger to going on the road in big games and winning. They can possibly win that game in Kansas City. If it boils down to both these teams, do I think the Chargers a little bit more explosive? Yes, I do. But if I'm asking for one stop in a football game, I want those two mad crashing defensive ends on on the Chargers on my side, as opposed to what Kansas City has here.
I agree. And I said Mike Williams, the wide receiver, Mike Williams. This is a dangerous, dangerous Chargers squad. Whale Capper, am I too high on these Chargers?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't see a weakness on this team. You look at the roster, we'll start on the defensive side. Defense doesn't matter as much in the regular season for sure anyway, but they have an absolutely ruthless pass rush. They have coverage in the secondary that is at the very, very top 5, clearly top 5 coverage unit. So complete defense top to bottom. They're going to be able to, maybe they may have trouble stopping the run if you have a lead against them late, but I don't know how you're going to get a lead against them late. They have just an absolute unit there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they have incredible weapons in the passing game. Phillip Rivers has still got, juice in the tank. They have a running back who's dynamic. They have second and third unit players that can step in if there are injuries. You can pretty much count on there going to be injuries because that's just the way that this organization operates. But I think there's on the depth chart, there's really no obvious weakness on this team for today's NFL. I think that prop you mentioned of they have the most wins in the NFL was 9-1. You said I'm looking real hard at that. Because this is one of your more complete teams with depth, and I don't think it's particularly close. As far as how they match up with the Chiefs, we saw them take a 2-touchdown deficit and turn it into a win in Arrowhead when they needed it at the end of the year last year. If that's not a sign of a team that has fight and potential in them, then I don't know what is. I think clearly if the Chargers had not been a wild card last year in the playoffs, if they had if they had won their division, if they had a bye, I think that is your Super Bowl rep, and I don't think it's close. I thought they were the victims of having to travel multiple times at the end of the season, including on the road to the Ravens and then turning back around. Again, organizational stupidity may be their Achilles heel here. Flying to Baltimore, flying back to LA before flying to New England to get your butt kicked is a questionable decision right there. But I think the coaching staff showed signs of being aggressive. They were rewarded when they were aggressive. I love when that happens. That's like Philadelphia Eagles kind of blueprint right there, right? Like you get aggressive, you get rewarded, and then that kind of teaches your coaching staff, oh, this is the way we should do it, right? Like, so even though there were weaknesses in the coaching staff in general, I think they have learned and that there's growth there. And so I'm as bullish on the Chargers as I am on the Colts as far as being clear favorites to win the division. Granted, there's much more realistic challenger here in the Chiefs than anyone that I've viewed in the AFC South. But yeah, the LA Chargers have the goods, and home field advantage. While it would be nice as far as giving you a little bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling if you're betting their win total over, I don't think it really comes into play much. Their schedule is very, very favorable in my opinion.
Yeah, so much went wrong for the Chargers last year early in the season. I had them to win the division and the win total over last year, and it was within hours of making the bet that Bosa hurt his foot. We didn't know how long he would be out for. This team just seems like it's answered questions, and the roster is very strong. Denver Broncos. Let's move on to the Broncos. Win total at 7.5 at Bet365. The over at +120. The under at -150. Division 12-1. Conference 33-1. Super Bowl 66-1. To make the playoffs, +450. We got Fangio coming in as a new coach. Chicago Bears defensive coordinator for the last 4 years. You have Joe Flacco behind center. Not a lot you can do with Flacco except air it out. Can Philip Lindsay duplicate last year's tremendous season? Nice 1-2 punch with Royce Freeman. Sanders has supposedly made steady progress in his recovery from last year's Achilles tear, but that's a tough job for a 32-year-old. Can he combine with Cortland Sutton to be dangerous wide receivers? I don't think so. Bradley Chubb will be even better this year. He's spectacular. Von Miller, a beast. Do these Broncos have enough to get over the 7.5 or possibly make the playoffs, Donnie Rightside?
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. When I look at environments and what you want to bet into and how you structure the future of your team, it's clear to me there's really nothing. And we already talked about the Miami Dolphins. Like, finding a quarterback is what you have to do. The Denver Broncos are sort of in that same boat. You have a really good defense. I like what they did with the secondary, retooling it. They're going to have a really good pass rush. They play in a home field environment in elevation. That's tough to go in there and win. But that's not the objective. Like, this year's Denver Broncos shouldn't be worried about, if we can get to 8 wins or 9 wins or make the playoff with 10 wins. Your only job here is to find your future quarterback at this point, and that's not something I want to put my eggs in. If we take a look even at, going out the season, and let's just say they have a pretty good start to the season, what's the whole point of it here? What, because Joe Flacco can get you to 9-7, and what are you going to do next year when he's a free agent and he wants big money and you still haven't rectified the backup quarterback that you have now, who's going to be a young kid who should be your starter? Because if you have a bad start to the season and you're taking a team total, the young kid's coming into quarterback's going to have his growing pains. Now, if you have a good start to the season, and what's a good start for Denver? 4-4. Does John Elway say, oh, man, great, let's make a run at the playoffs with Joe Flacco, and if he does, we'll pay him $35 million a year in the future? That's not what they want to do. So when I take a look at the Denver Broncos this year, I don't want any part of the team total, because what they should be focusing on is the actual future and finding their quarterback. If they're riding it out with Joe Flacco, they're doing it wrong right away at this point. You're looking at the offensive weapons for Joe Flacco. A lot of banged up, a lot of injured. Do we like Cortland Sutton? Yes, we do. But behind that, what is there? Are they going to just hand off to Philip Lindsay and say, ooh, this is really exciting football? There's 2 teams in your division that are so much higher up on the totem pole than you are. Your only job is to find the quarterback this year. I want nothing to do with the Denver Broncos this year, Jimmy.
I hear that. I want nothing to do with them either. Whale Capper, what do you think about these Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I think Donnie nailed that. They have holes on their roster in a lot of the parts where you do not want holes. Most notably quarterback. Joe Flacco might be he's a bottom 3 starting quarterback heading into this season. I guess if you take out the rookies, we really don't know what to expect from them at this point. And you look at just who's going into this season with the starting quarterback and ranking them. I don't think you can convince me that Joe Flacco shouldn't be in the bottom 3. I think is long past his best football, is long way behind him. And the idea that he in some way saves things in Denver is really, really tough sell. Their one strength, their pass rush on defense, nah. If you're playing against a team where the quarterback's getting it out, is getting it out of his hand quickly, you're going to neutralize that. The scheme has kind of caught up to the really, really just one-sided pass rush defenses. I don't necessarily even expect them to, be considered one of the top-tier defenses as we go through this league, go through this year. And so the only thing I really have interest at all in the Broncos is I'll probably be backing them against the spread early in the season at home in Mile High. We've seen this show up year over year. Where teams that travel there are a little gassed, don't necessarily perform to their best, and just kind of the general perception that the Broncos are also Rams and they stink. Maybe you got a little bit of value built into those lines already. So I'll be looking for opportunities to back the Broncos at home against the spread early in the season, and then fascinated to see how Vic Fangio emerges as a head coach. I was not high on that. Not particularly bullish on that hire at all. I don't think he has kind of the makeup and the He's not the prototype of who you should be hiring if you're at this stage of the Broncos are at for this season. And, an older guy who's been in the league for a while, who's mostly defensive focused, you want to put that guy in as your defensive coordinator after this doesn't work out in the Broncos. Sounds good to me, but he's not my next head coach if I'm out there, trying to build a team in this year's NFL.
Yeah, I do not like the look of this football team, but I like the angle of backing them at home early and in Mile High. And now we get to the Oakland Raiders. Win total 5.5, heavily juiced to the over. Division 12-1, conference 33-1, Super Bowl 66-1 to make the playoffs, plus 600. To finish with the worst record in the NFL, plus 900. Can Derek Carr move this offense? It's definitely stronger than it was last year. How good is first-round pick Josh Jacobs out of Alabama? Is he fast enough? They also have Hunter Renfrow. Will he play a big role in this offense? Probably not in year one, but moving forward, he will. Antonio Brown joins the team. They moved on from Jordy Nelson. I am not a fan of John Gruden. I do not like what he's done early in this long, very wealthy contract that he has signed. Donnie Rightside, the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one here. I mean, it almost seems like a sitcom, no pun intended. Obviously, they're going to be on, Hard Knocks, and they're going to be in the life. You have a head coach that used to be in the booth and a very, public figure. You have a GM that used to be hired by, ESPN and running draft type of stuff. And it's kind of funny because you saw the draft that they had, and everybody's joking around the saying, was the only game they watched was the national championship game? Is that where they thought they could, get all their value in their players, and that's all they needed to see? But what makes this really hard for me is because you get Antonio Brown. Is he a sensational talent? Absolutely. But he's the type of guy that's a real me guy. And look, the guy was putting up 100 receiving each and every year catches wise, and still not happy with that. 10 touchdowns. I'm not getting the ball enough. So when you have an offense like John Gruden's going to run, the true West Coast offense, what is it built on? Spreading the football around. So if he gets 6 catches one game for 89 yards and doesn't get all his looks that he wants, where is it going to end up? Now, the biggest ingredient in the Oakland Raiders that you're going to want to watch, they're still not who they're supposed to be. They're waiting to get to Las Vegas. It's almost like these years are almost, downtrodden type stuff. We'll see what we have. Let's stockpile draft picks and get after it. They only had 13 sacks last year by trading away the best pass rusher probably in the NFL. So they go out and draft some pass rushing to try to make that up. They go out and get a wide receiver who is aging and talented when they already had a younger one there with Amari Cooper, which is interesting in itself. But the one thing that's really going to hurt this football team here is you need to get out fast if you're the Oakland Raiders. There's a lot of head cases on that team, including the head coach, the GM, and obviously the wide receiver. But if you take a look at their schedule, they get Denver and Kansas City at home. Let's just say the best they do in that is split. They're going to be on the road from September 15th through November 3rd without a home game. I mean, we're not talking about a team that's the Philadelphia Eagles where you go to the Giants, you go to the Redskins, you go to the Patriots, you go to the Steelers. This is a West Coast team that's going to be away for almost a month and a half and already not a good football team. You can see them at the end of this turn at Minnesota, at Indy, Chicago, in London, at Green Bay, at Houston. This could be team turmoil, Jimmy, by the time they get back in November. Going to make for great TV, just not for many wins for them.
Wow, Donnie, quickly, do you think that the under 5.5 is big plus line, plus 130 as value?
I mean, you have to be a really bad football team. I mean, you're going to land at 5.5. It already means you're bad. But 6 and 10 they have the talent on that team. Jimmy, if they had a regular schedule here, and what I mean by that is just, home game, away game, home game, they should be able to do that. But it really might flip on its head in that first. And then John Gruden's going to, I got to see what I have for next year. I got to see when we get to Vegas. We might even ship off guys after week 4, 5, and 6 for more draft picks. I can't trust this team.
Yeah, can't trust this team. Well, Capper, what do you make of these Oakland Raiders?
Yeah, I think Donnie nailed it. I would swing on the under, though. This has every makings of just absolute falling apart early in the season, and they have to find a way to inject some enthusiasm into this team when they head to Las Vegas. That's not going to be easy if everyone in the NFL and in the media circles is like, Derek Carr is not the answer. I think those of us on this, the Audible today kind of agree. Derek Carr is not the answer. And if they get, 8 games into the season and they're 1-7 or 2-6, you're going to see, let's bring in some other guys. We got to get our young guys some reps. We got to start to, build up some of these, it has, and then, net I think, net positive player in Antonio Brown. He's bringing more to the table in terms of skill and production than he is taking off the table with drama and internal friction. And he got paid, so he should be, reasonably chill this season. But it is the mixings of some volatility there that could turn, what is a 6-10 team on paper into a 3-13 type of outcome. So I'm out on this. I'm out on the franchise as a whole. John Gruden has not. I keep wanting to think that he does have some interesting ideas and wrinkles that'll be plus expected value for this franchise, but we're not seeing it. The Mayock draft was not good. They had so many assets, they had so many holes to fill, and the decisions they made did not really jive with kind of a forward-thinking approach to winning in the NFL this year, which is especially strange since they share a division with the likes of the Chiefs and the Chargers, who are putting that blueprint on paper. So I could see a very realistic outcome here, where teams like the Raiders, Dolphins, and Bengals are all fighting for that first overall draft pick next year, so they can get their quarterback situations fixed. Broncos too, for that matter. But you might see a little Tanko-palooza between the Broncos and the Raiders when they play each other this season. But it's not going to be good in Oakland, and Hard Knocks is going to be must-see TV just for the nonsense.
Yeah, what a mess. What a mess. There is the AFC West. Donnie, final thoughts on this division. The Chargers look very good. If you were going to make future bets on the Chargers, what would you focus on? And final thoughts on how this plays out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be 1 and 1A is what we like to say in this division. It's a 2-team race that's going to be there. I still think it's probably going to come down to, now again, we're filming this banking on that Tyreek Hill is probably not going to be suspended, because that could throw a wrench into things right off the bat. And we don't know the NFL. I mean, we're thinking 1 or 2 games. They could come out of nowhere and give him an 8-game suspension and just throw that thing right into a wreck right off the bat. If we're looking at him still playing, I still just can't get over. I love the Chiefs' home field advantage. I think it works in their favor. That 1 game in Mexico, I'm still going to ride it out that I do think the Chiefs, in the all ends up, will be the leader in this division. But I don't want to bet on a minus number. If you tell me the Chiefs are plus 140, plus 130, okay, we'll ride that out there. But I think the Chiefs are the best team in the division. But overall, value-wise, I think it's going to be the Chargers. And one last point on those Oakland Raiders real quick. John Gruden's got a 10-year contract. They're not firing him, giving him all that guaranteed money. He could just throw away seasons just to set up down the line and say, okay, by year 5, I finally have my team. So watch out on the Raiders in this division.
Yeah, heavily juiced to the over, that 5.5, minus 160 at this book right here. Whale Capper, final thoughts on the AFC West.
Chargers. Get your AFC West ticket. Get your AFC Champion ticket. Get your Super Bowl ticket. This team is the most complete top to bottom of any AFC team. Phillip Rivers is due. They get a bye. Look out. They are going to be extremely tough to beat. If I had to say most likely AFC Championship right now, it would be Colts and Chargers in LA, in that 2,000 person stadium where they usually play soccer.
Oh, I like it. I like the sounds of all of that. I have still yet to move. We are shooting this on June 28th. I've yet to make a move on the Colts. I'm still only 2 future bets in, and that being the under with the Dolphins and the over with the Bills. So I have work to do, and I may do it right after this show. Thank you guys so much for watching. That has been the AFC West with my guys, Donnie Rightside and the Whale Capper. Stay tuned for more breakdowns.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.